You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast, your guide to living a more purposeful life. The Tactical Harmony Podcast is hosted by Rebecca Fitzsimmons, a former NCIS special agent turned holistic leadership coach and mindset strategist. Drawing on nearly 20 years of experience empowering high-achieving professionals to break barriers and lead with purpose, Rebecca shares tried and true strategies and actionable insights to help you excel in today's fast-paced world. If you're ready to lead with impact and create harmony in the chaos, the Tactical Harmony Podcast is for you. Available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or check it out at tacticalharmony.com or in the show notes below. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show, and thank you all for being here. It is springtime. Finally, right? It's at least in Florida. Now, I know some of you up north, you're like, wait, we still have like another month and a half of winter, but trust me, it's coming your way. It's getting there. So I wanted to share with you this week, since it's getting to be spring and we're emerging from the winter season, or the fallow, right? The time when things go dormant and kind of you have the long days, the cool nights, the darkness. It's a good time to sit and recharge and re-energize for the busyness of spring and summer that are about to come your way. And one of the things we've done over the past few years is really take this time to reflect inward, to spend more time with ourselves, to use the silence and the fewer activities and things to do outside when it's cold, to really evaluate what did we do this year that we liked, what do we need to change, what are some adjustments we're going to make to have more success, to have more fulfilling and exciting, invigorating relationships and experiences, and it recharge us energetically, right? Like everything's an energetic exchange. And what are those things we're doing that allow us to feel like, man, that was good. I want to do more of that, and eliminate those things that we want to do less of, that drain us, that don't feel good to our soul, that don't feel good when we're done, to where we go, all right, I need to relive that again. So I've kind of come up with 3 things over this winter season that I want to adjust in my life, that I want to either hone in on or tighten up a little bit. And I want to share those with you this week. And I call this episode The Art of Setting Boundaries. And we're going to talk about setting boundaries in 3 areas. And sometimes when people hear the word term setting boundaries, or putting up your boundaries, we have a negative connotation that it means we're going to exclude others, or we're better than people, or we're looking down or judging. And I want you to shift out of that, right? I'm not saying do any of that. What I'm doing is I'm going to set boundaries to make sure my days are fulfilling for me, right? First and foremost, for me, that my days and my time are enjoyable to me. Because once I do that, now I'm better to serve everybody around me. And if I'm always available to everybody else but never available to me, there's a lot of things that can happen there, right? Resentment, bitterness, a loss of self. So this week I want to talk about the art of setting boundaries in 3 areas that I'm going to personally work on, and that I would love to get your thoughts on. What do you think? And if these are 3 you would work on, or if you would add something else. So as always, before we get started, please like, subscribe, share our content wherever you're consuming it, on the major podcast apps, on YouTube, on social media, or do me a favor and do all of them. You can do all of that for free, and we would love it. It would help us greatly to reach more people around the world and continue to share purposeful content with them. All right, so let's talk about this. What are 3 areas in the art of setting boundaries I'm referring to? All right, the first one is your time, right? Setting boundaries with your time. The one commodity that I can never get back, that we never get back. It never replenishes. It's always growing smaller by the moment. And you can never do the same moment twice, right? So getting out of this idea that we're spending our time living the dream, or just getting by, or working for the weekend, and not existing and thriving in the moments we have, always looking to that next moment, right? It's one of our most precious resources. We need to hold ourselves accountable for where we're spending our time, how we spend our time, and ultimately also how I use the time of other people that are around me. Right? I've been teaching a lot of leadership classes lately, and things are going super good. And one of the things I keep coming back to is one of the great tenets of a leader is not to waste the time of other people. Right? And I came across this because when I first transitioned out of law enforcement and I started running a gym and launching my own businesses, I found myself taking all kinds of meetings with people that I thought were going to open a next window or a great connection and a collaboration. And basically anything that came to me, I had a really wide open filter. I was like, okay, the universe put this here. I'm supposed to figure it out. And what I found was I was constantly adjusting my schedule to fit in other people's schedules. And I found that everybody else's time was a priority over mine. And I realized this was a result of the habits I developed as a police officer, right? In the world of law enforcement, you go to work, you're not in control of the time you're going to be there, right? You're there for a certain amount of time, but in that time, you're going to take whatever calls, emergencies, and crisis come your way. You eat around the peak call times. You sneak in bathroom breaks when you can. You get a cup of coffee, but you got to be prepared to never drink it till it's cold because you're always on the call of you're always on somebody else's time frame, right? Always on somebody else's call load. When they call, you got to go. And what I found is I transitioned into small business ownership and just life in general. I had a hard time breaking away from that. I was always being ready to answer everybody else's emergencies, jump into everybody else's fires and help put them out. And I didn't spend the time I needed with me. Right? I didn't make sure that the time I was spending was on my terms and priority. And was I getting in my workouts? Was I eating the way I wanted to be? Was I being present in the moments I needed to be? Or was I always somewhere else, right? And what I realized is that if you're always open, your time doesn't have much value to anybody else. Right? If everybody else always knows that they can call you at any time and do anything, and you're going to drop whatever you're doing and accommodate them, well, what is the value of your time? And I'm not saying you wouldn't have people in your life that you would drop everything for and go, right? You certainly have those relationships. But it shouldn't be for every stranger on the street. Everybody that has a new idea. Everybody that comes into your circle and drains you, like there should be some boundaries there, right? So years later now, what I've learned is that if you're wanting to meet with me, I want to know up front, what are we discussing? What's the background on you or your product if we haven't met before? How do you think it's mutually beneficial, right? Because I realized I had spent so much time in these conversations and these pitches that I didn't never know how it was going to benefit me, but it's clearly how my time, my energy benefited the other person that I didn't want to be part of that anymore. Right, so what do you want to meet with me about? What are we discussing? Give me some background on you. How can I look you up? How's it going to be mutually beneficial? And just email me, right? You don't need a half-hour conversation if we've never met. Send me your information. I will look into on my time and see if it's a meeting I want to facilitate or not. I'll review it in a time that works for me and my family, and we'll get back to you, right? Creating barriers on your time is it not an ego thing? It's not because I think I'm better or lesser than anybody else. It's an establishing priorities and how do I want to spend my limited commodity of time? I get 24 hours a day. How do I want to spend that? I don't want to spend it in ways that doesn't fulfill me. Right? I want to be in places that challenge my thinking, that help me grow, both personally, professionally, in my relationships, and leave me feeling like, man, I really enjoyed that conversation. I enjoyed being in this space. So that's my metric for, am I spending time in the right place? All right, so the first art of setting boundaries is in our time. The second one is in our attention. Right? Some people will say, well, time and attention are the same. I don't think so. Time is being somewhere. Attention is what you're paying to, what you're focused on while you're there, right? And as my good friend Zach Mercurio says, attention is actually your scarcest resource, which means it's your greatest gift, right? And that's a quote from him. Think about that again. Attention is your scarcest resource, which means it's your greatest gift. So if it's my scarcest resource and I am in front of you and I'm attentive to you and I'm listening to you, that's the greatest gift I can give you. Right? Think about there are those people around us that make you feel seen, heard. And when you're just in their presence, you feel lighter. Even if you showed up heavy, even if the day wasn't going good, just being around certain people, it just puts that pep in your step and gets you feeling good again. What is it about them that's different? How can they help you that way many times without saying a word? A lot of times it's just because you're being seen and heard and valued, and they are attentive to you, right? They're focused on listening, being in the moment, staying present where you are, and sharing the space with you right then and there. Not worrying about what's already what happened or what's to come in the future, but just being present in these moments. In my recent class, I was sharing the Chinese proverb of the invisible thread, right? Where you are predetermined or predestined to meet with certain people in your life. And that thread can be tangled, it can be bent, it can be twisted, but it can never be broken. And as I looked into the class of students and I thought about that, I thought, man, right? And I shared with them, if that's the true story, right? If that's a true thing, right? Like we're predetermined to meet certain people in our life, what would happen is it if we're meeting that person and we're not paying attention? Right? And even in that class, we are predestined to be there. So our time is already predetermined, but is our attention opening up to listen, speak, share, learn from one another? Our time was committed, but our attention was still negotiable. Running that class, I had to keep their attention focused on the topic at hand. But what if some of the people we were meant to learn from, to be inspired by, to inspire, to teach, have been crossing our paths every day and we just haven't paid attention. We just haven't been present in our moments to really enjoy it, right? To understand it, to recognize the significance of our crossing. Right? Think about times we're home with our family, quiet time with a spouse, maybe our kids, after school, after sports, between events. But instead of being really present there and listening and watching them and taking a deep breath and reflecting on the amazingness of our lives, we're spending time thinking about that last meeting, the last conversation, the meeting tomorrow, the conversation tomorrow, what I have to do later on, what I have to do, what happened 3 weeks ago. Some of us are still carrying around things that happened years ago that are robbing us of our attention in our moments. Right? Too many times we're not where we are. Our time is here, but our attention is somewhere else. And by not putting boundaries on where our attention goes, we rob ourselves of our moments. So we got our time, our attention, and the last one I want to share this week is our word. Putting boundaries on our word. Boundaries of accountability. Right, and this one's so basic and it's been shared so many times with many of us since we were old enough to even communicate, right? Is that if you promise something, if you tell someone you're going to do something, you do it. Plain and simple, super easy. Yet it's ridiculously hard to find in today's world. Businesses don't honor contracts. They don't show up when they say they're going to show up. People do the same things to others. Sadly, they do it to themselves. Which is why when we start putting up boundaries about our word, if we're going to say we're going to do something, we're actually going to do it. The first place I want to start is with the words we share to ourselves. If we tell ourselves we're going to do something, then we got to do it. Right? If you say you're going to wake up at a certain time, done. That's the time you get up. There's no snooze alarm. There's no few more minutes. There's no turn your clock around so you can't see it. You said you were getting up. Something as basic as that for adults. You said you were getting up. Get up at that time. You said you were going to start a fitness journey or make some food changes or a lifestyle change. Done. There's no room to negotiate now. We don't just push it back to next week, next year, some other time, right? Your best you, your future you, is counting on today you, the youngest you will ever be again, to honor your word, to do the things you said you were going to do. Right? Because here's the truth. If we break promises or agreements to ourselves, how can we hold anybody else accountable to us? Right? We're putting out in the world that our word isn't even good enough to ourselves. Why should other people accept our word? The other thing I want us to focus on with our words is choosing the words we're going to use. Right? So accountable, if we say we're going to do something with our words, we do it. But then twofold here. I also want to choose my words wisely. Will the words that I put in my inner dialogue, that I share with the people around me, will they allow for grace for mistakes? Will they allow grace for you and in turn grace for others? Will you take a moment in your day to be thankful, to be grateful for all the people you cross that serve you in some way, and to reflect on your ability to serve others because of the randomness of your meetings? Will you use your words, your social media words, your spoken words, your texting to people? Are you going to use your words to inspire and uplift and lighten the world around you? To help create the very world you want to be in, right? The one that you can thrive in. When we talk about our word, it's in the promises we tell ourselves, how we choose to use our words, and how we allow our words to show up for us in the world. Right? So as we wrap up today, I want to just share that creating boundaries for who gets access to your time. Make sure your family, friends, the people that are super close to you get the best of your time, not the leftovers after the busyness has waned. Setting boundaries around your time allows you to sit with yourself, to reflect, to really take inventory of what's making you feel good, doing more of those things, eliminating the things that you don't feel good about, that drain you. Realize the value you create in your own world when you're not available 24/7 to everybody else. Right? We manage our attention for in spaces that don't align with how we want to feel. Let's remove them from our circle of influence. Right? It's super easy on social media. If you're on social media and all you're getting is political stuff, one way or the other, it just doesn't make you feel good. If you're getting a bunch of hate and blah, 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 unfollow, unsubscribe. Cut that out of your life. Replace them with ones that align with you, or take a break from all of it together. Put your attention in places and people where it pays a return to you on quality, emotionally, and rewards you with the outcomes you're seeking. Right? Our word, putting boundaries around our word. If what we tell ourselves is true, and we honor what we tell ourselves, and we hold ourselves accountable to what we tell ourselves, then we tend to do that with others, and we attract others that do that as well. So we work to make sure our self-talk is reassuring, uplifting, loving, and allows us to move forward by being accountable to us, creating a culture of accountability in our circle, and it allows us to have conversations that are deeper than the surface. Spend time engaging with the people that uplift us, inspire us, and let us feel like we're alive and we're growing. If we don't negotiate on these three things, right? If we hold true that these boundaries are important to us, if we say this is how we're going to act, I'm going to protect my time, I will be where I am, I'm going to communicate honestly, authentically, and openly with myself and others, Imagine the conversations we can have, the deepness of the relationships that we can develop, and who knows what the ripple effect might just be. Thank you for joining me this week. It's always an honor to have you here. Please like, subscribe, share on your favorite platforms, social media. It means the world to us when we see you share some of our content. And as always, let us know what you think about this episode and the art of setting boundaries. The 3 things we talked about: time, attention, and your word. Is there something else you would add? What are you doing to make this moment, the next moment, the kind of moments you want to repeat throughout your life? Have an awesome week, everybody. And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.